Hi, this is Randall Schwartz, host of Floss Weekly. This week, Aaron Newcomb joins me to talk about Packet Fence, a way of making sure that only the right people get on your network. You'll want to hear about this, so stay tuned.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Floss Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is Floss Weekly with Randall Schwartz and Aaron Newcomb. Episode 155 for March 2nd, 2011. Packet Fence. It's time for Floss Weekly, the show about free, libre, open source software. I am your host, Randall Schwartz, bringing this show as often as I can, typically weekly, occasionally with co-hosts lately because of all the wonderful cruises I've been on. Speaking of co-hosts, though, let's go ahead and bring on this week's co-host from right there in the Twit Cottage, Aaron Newcomb. Welcome back to the show.
Good morning, Randall.
Hey, you know, the last time I saw you, you were, 400 miles further south? You were down here in L.A. with me at Scale, right?
Yeah, that's right. Scale was a great conference this year. There was so much going on. In fact, I'm wearing my Scale T-shirt. I don't know if you can see it.
Wow.
It just happened to be the first thing I grabbed out of the drawer this morning. But
the topmost clean shirt. I know that.
Exactly. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. But yeah, it was a great conference. In fact, I did a whole series of interviews and stuff from down there. So the next episode of The Source will be all about Scale 9X.
Very good. Well, We've got some really great guests on today. We've got Ludovic Marcotte. I hope I pronounced that right. They're French names that are sort of fun. He's with the Inverse company, and he is also working with Olivier Bilodeau, who is another guy with a French name. They're both working on Packet Fence, which is from what I understand, it's like a captive portal or some way to manage your Wi-Fi access so that only the people you expect on your network are going to be on there, having an ability to provide authentication to things like Radius and stuff. So, for example, a company might run this on their Wi-Fi to protect and make sure that only the local guys are on, and so on. So it sounds like a really interesting project, actually. So I'm really looking forward to get this on. But before I talk about that, a couple of really brief announcements that have happened since the last show. First off, since the last episode that I was on, we've had MailRoute as a sponsor for a while, and I sort of actually wanted to put my money where my mouth is and actually check them out, and I have. I've enabled them for my server, and it really, really works well. I told Leo this, and he actually talked about it in some of his openings as well, but it actually has been working really well. I'll have more to say about that later, but I just wanted to kind of say MailRoute works. MailRoute.info, go check it out. And also, if you're watching on the live video, you may see that I'm no longer at the 43rd floor of the 9th tallest building in LA, like I often am when I'm in LA. I'm actually on the 2nd floor of just about the tallest building in Culver City, which is about 20 miles west of that. I'm at a new client. I'm actually working for Media Temple, which is one of the largest hosting companies here in the area. And they've got me doing some really cool stuff already. And hopefully they're actually going to give me like a real mic and a real headset instead of the one I just pulled from my bag real quickly. But just wanted to say, if you notice the new digs, that's why. It's probably a little more echoey too because the room is really big.
Yeah, I know the guys at Media Temple. They're good guys.
Yeah, they do a lot of sponsoring of open source conferences and stuff. They use a ton of Perl here.
Yep, they were at Scale too.
Yeah, and they were at Scale. Yeah, the guys they did most of the running of the DevOps day on Friday. So it's funny because I'm sitting here looking at my, hanging out with my future employer, saying, I'm coming in on Monday. Do you guys know I'm coming in on Monday? And they go, oh no, we thought it was next Monday. And I went, no, I'm going right from here, right up to Culver City. So I'm glad I'm glad I actually got to see them at the conference over the weekend, or else I wouldn't have actually been able to come in here on Monday. But anyway, so I think it's going to be a really good gig. I do miss being in downtown because I can't just walk to work. I actually have to drive 2 miles to work. But oh well, have a car finally. Have a car in LA. Imagine that.
Wow.
Anyway, I think I've stalled long enough. Let's go ahead, because that's not what people are listening to the show for. They're actually listening to the show for our guests, for our wonderful interviews with our guests. So do you have any comments before we bring the guests on?
No, I'm really excited to talk about this. My only exposure to this kind of software is in hotels and airports and stuff. So I'm really curious to see how they do it with open source.
Very good. Well, let's without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our guests. So let's go ahead and bring on our guests. Let's start with Ludovic Marcotte. Ludovic, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we also have Olivier Bilodeau. Hope I'm not mispronouncing that.
That's fine. Hi,
Close
everyone.
So, Ludovic, at the beginning of the show, I gave sort of my 30,000-foot view of Packet Fence and tried to explain what it was all about. But I'm sure I did a horrible job of it, especially since I only had 30 seconds to do it in. So, but before we get into what it is, let's start with what the problem is. So let's talk about what problem you would have that you would want to turn to Packet Fence to solve it.
Okay, I mean, you realize now that there are, I mean, a gazillion of devices now out there that are, let's say, trying to connect to networks, being wired networks or wireless networks. And it comes to be a problem more and more for organizations, being schools, companies, and every institution out there. They want to secure network access. So they want to make sure that everything that connects to their network is actually allowed to be on their network. If for example, they allow, they will have access to the proper resources on the network, so servers, email servers, and stuff like that. And if they are not, they will be put into a restricted network where they might only have, for example, wireless access, not wireless access, sorry, but internet access. So it's really about trying to figure out what is connected to your network and eventually being able to enforce a network policy on everything that is connected to your network. So this is a problem that Packet Fence tries to resolve.
And how does it do that?
Well, it comes to what is a NAC, so what is not network access control. So I usually describe NAC as a 5-phase process. The first one is the registration process, where everything that is connected on the network has to be registered. So Packet Fence is aware of every devices on the network, printers, laptops, servers, everything. So Packet Fence has its own database of everything that can connect or that has connected on the network. The second thing, once the registration is completed, okay, Packet Fence becomes a transparent solution. So it doesn't interfere with nothing on the network. It will just make sure that if someone is not registered on the network, it will have to register. So since every components out there are registered, Packet Fence can now be transparent and enters into a mode where it listens on the network for abnormal activities. For example, you could see a virus, spyware, or something like that on your network, and from there it will start the four-order processes, which is the detection of the abnormal activity, the notification of the user that has committed the abnormal activity, so we can send in, for example, a pop-up. Once the user has been notified, we enter the third phase, which is the remediation. So we'll put the device that has committed the fault on the network into a quarantine network. And the last phase is the remediation. Okay, so we will present the user remediation instructions so he can gain back his network access. So when you combine those 5 phases, you have a network access control solution. First of all, everything that is on the network needs to be registered, and from there you can enforce your network policy while users are on your network.
So Olivier, let me ask you this question. First off, what's your relationship with the Packet Fence project?
I'm working as the lead developer for Packet Fence, so doing everything from community management, but also doing the releases and doing the daily development work.
Okay, so where would Packet Fence fit in the framework of things? Does this go on the actual box that is delivering the Wi-Fi, or is it further back in some sort of router process between the Wi-Fi base station and the actual rest of the network? Where does it fit in the process?
So in the flow, it's actually a server, a Linux server where we install the solution. But in the real flow of things, the enforcement, the security enforcement is done as close as the client as possible. So for example, in wireless networks, we integrate with the wireless equipment, and the wireless will do a radius query to the Packet Fence server, and Packet Fence will then return the correct network posture, which we use VLAN for, to give access. On the wired side of things, we work very intimately with switches. So If you use 802.1x, then it will be, again, radius query that will be sent to the packet fence server. But if we use another, if you don't have access to 802.1x switches, then we will use SNMP traps, so port security, what we call port security, or what vendors call port security, to packet fence. Packet fence will get the SNMP trap and then will react on it. So, for example, change the VLAN of the port to put it in registration VLAN.
Cool. How long has packet fence been around?
Taking a step back a little, from what Ludovic said at the beginning, the really interesting bit of packet fence is in your network now, instead of knowing who are on your network on an IP or MAC address base, with packet fence, you know who is on your network based on a username, on an authenticated user. So this is really the big selling point for packet fence. I know Randall Schwartz is using Mac OS X on wireless. He connected on this access point. He also used a Linux workstation and he connected on that switch because you authenticated through the captive portal.
And okay, so now back to the question I was starting to ask. How long has packet fence been around, and what was its impetus to get it started?
Packet fence started as a project at the Harvard University, the JFK School of Government, back in 2003. 3 guys there developed the initial solution. It was open source back in 2004, I think, late 2004, and Inverse quickly jumped on the project by, improving the solution. We were, let's say, wondering what kind of security solution will be hot 5 years from now, so in 2005, 2010. So we tried to figure out what was to become nice and cool, and we discovered packet fence, and we had a good amount of large-scale clients, and we wanted to improve the solution so it will be usable in large-scale networks. So that's how it all started, and we started contributing to the solution back in 2005, and the Harvard University transferred up the leadership of the project for its development back in 2008. So that's how it started.
Now, what's in the same space as this? I remember the NoCat software is probably some piece of this. Is there other things in that in the open source space that cover this arena?
The only thing I'm really aware of is there was FreeNAC at some point, which was hooking into Cisco's VMPS protocol. I know that they are in maintenance mode now, not really doing any development. Also, only for wireless, one can think to integrate with maybe Wi-Fi Dog. I think is a popular project for wireless, but it's not. It cannot handle the wired side, and it's not, really endpoint security enforcement as what packet fence does. But most of our competition is in from the proprietary software companies. For instance, Cisco NAC is maybe our most well-known competitor. So we've been pretty much lone wolf into the NAC space in open source.
Cool. And what's the sort of scope of this? Is this something I would use if I had just like a home network and I wanted to secure my my Wi-Fi router, so I have like my friends over and they'd have access to it? Or is this something that really doesn't make sense until you get to maybe 50 users, 1,000 users, that sort of thing? What level does this become interesting?
That's a good question, Randall. If you were to secure, for example, your home network with, let's say, 5 or 20 users, you will probably be looking at equipment that will allow you to use NoCat Auth, Wi-Fi Dog, and stuff like that. Packet fence is really interesting when the network starts to be a little bit bigger. Let's say 100 or 200 computers or nodes that we call. That's where it becomes interesting. So having a few manageable switches, a few intelligent access point or access point with the wireless controllers. So when you count a couple of those, you start having an interesting network. Let's say 200, 250 computers. That's where packet fence starts to be interesting. But it doesn't end there. I mean, the solution has been deployed by ourselves or by others in environments that counts 1,000 switches, and 2,000-3,000 access points. So it's a solution that scales very, very well. It does work very well also on small networks like I've described, but it really isn't the solution to secure, let's say, your wireless home equipment.
So we talked a little bit about this already, but how does this look for the user, right? When they go to log in, are they going to, is this like, I'm thinking of when I'm in the airport, for example, or a hotel where I've got a web page that I've got to go through to get internet access. Does it work like that, or how does it interface with the user?
It works like that, Aaron. It works or it interfaces with the user through a captive portal. So let's say the very basic workflow of the 5 phases of NAC. Let's say the registration part. I arrive at your network that is secured by packet fence. I plug my computer in. So I plug the RG45 jack, or I associate to your wireless network. Since packet fence doesn't know me, the packet fence solution will put me into what we call a registration VLAN. So the registration VLAN, everything that I do in this particular VLAN, let's say HTTP activity with the Firefox, it will get redirected to the packet fence captive portal. So every web request I do will get redirected to the packet fence captive portal. From there, you're presented with a web page on which you can they explain your network policy usage. You can, for example, allow guests to register their equipment. You can allow administrator of your network to register devices and stuff like that. So you're brought to a captive portal, essentially. You register your equipment. So when you do that, you provide something, username and password, your phone number, whatever you have to provide in order to register. And this is, of course, it varies from clients to or users to others, because some might want to authenticate against an LDAP server, others against a database server, others they want to go through cellular phone numbers. It depends. But once you have registered your equipment, you have provided something, and a username, for example, and that ties the equipment that you're registering, it ties it to yourself. So packet fence knows at this point, once the device has been registered, that Ludovic, the MacBook of Ludovic that he used to register is belonging to Ludovic. So wherever that laptop goes on the network, it will be associated to me. So this is good. And once I've registered, I now have proper access. So the real network, or just a network for guests, whatever, packet fence become transparent. So if I unplug and I go into one of your other location that is secured by packet fence will recognize me and will always put me in the right network.
So you can have a shared database. If I have 10 sites, for example, is that how that works? Maybe I have a centralized database somewhere, and it goes back and authenticates against that.
Absolutely. Even if you were to have 10 sites, you wouldn't need to have 10 packet fence servers. Okay, packet fence supports what we call routed networks. So you can basically have, 10 location, 25 location, doesn't matter. If they are all routed back to a centralized location, you could have one packet fence server securing your entire network.
Wow. That's great.
So to be buzzword enabled, it works across WANs.
Right. And then what about, so you said that, that the packet fence software will recognize my laptop, for example, my operating system. I mean, this doesn't really do anything. If I walk away to lunch and leave my laptop logged in, someone can always, sneaker net behind me and use the computer, right? I mean, is there timeout features that you can add to try to protect against some of that?
Yes, that's a good point. Let's say I walk out to get a coffee, and you jump on my computer and you try to do something. Of course, packet fence will have no way of telling, who is using the computer. Maybe later when we will be able to use the webcams and do some funky stuff, but Not for now.
Right.
So, but with regard to the registration process, when someone registers pieces of equipment, you can have, let's say, registration time where a guest might register his equipment, but the registration might be valid only for a day. So if he come back the day later, a day after, or 2 days after, he will have to go through registration again.
Right.
So his username and password might not be valid anymore. While a normal employee or a student on a campus, you might want to register their equipment for as long as they are studying at the university.
Right. And I'm assuming it's fairly easy to set this up for different networks. So, for example, if I'm at a company and I want all of the wired plugs, right, to be free and open, and not have, because I'm assuming that the people working there are employees, right? It's a closed office with badge access and whatever. So I'm assuming that all those people are my employees and they're trusted. I'm assuming it's fairly easy then at that point to like make the wireless, for example, packet fence protected.
Absolutely. Packet fence can be used to secure only one switch port of your entire network.
Wow.
So it really manages security by ports. So what you say, Aaron, is right. You could, for example, have packet fence deployed on your network just to secure ports that are in conference rooms, for example.
Right.
So people that comes in and they do a presentation, they want to have like internet access only. They will plug in. They will have access to the Packet Fence captive portal. They will register their equipment as a guest, and they will have internet access.
Yeah.
If they do something stupid when they are doing their presentation, Packet Fence will catch them in the back, and you will be able to move them out of your network. This
Right.
is an important feature of Packet Fence.
Right, exactly. And then what about, pay systems? I keep going back in my head to the hotel or the airport example where sometimes companies will charge you, for a certain amount, a certain time of access, right? So does this integrate well with payment services as well so that people can use this as a mechanism to charge people for limited time access?
Yeah, this market never approached us, so we never did any development for it. But the accountability feature is all there in what we get from the controllers. So it's definitely something we could develop, but as a business, we're open source, so we're giving all our bits for free. So we need to be really customer driven, and no one has come up with such a use case to us yet.
Right.
But we would definitely be interested.
And I suppose that since it is open source, if a corporation wanted to take it and do something like that, they could always take the code and develop something on top of it themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Now, I see you guys won a Bossy Award. Is that correct?
Yes, we did. Back in 2008, 2009, we won a Bossy, and recently the CIO magazine selected Packet Fence as one of the 5 solutions to watch for 2011, and it was actually the #1 solution to watch for security project, which was pretty cool. And in 2010, last year, we won again a Golden Tux Award from Tech Republic. So the solution is getting recognized more and more, and it's great for the Packet Fence project and for us that we are developing the solution and working pretty hard on it.
Right. Now, I got a couple more questions. One is, what does this run on? So we talked about the kind of hardware you need, but in terms of OS support, are we talking a Linux only here, or could I use a Windows server to implement this as well?
No, so far our supported platform is Linux, and we are really, because of our situation, we rely on other external daemons, Apache, FreeRadius, SNMP TrapD. So we kind of, to be more performant or to release quicker, we've been focusing a lot on CentOS as a platform. Mm-hmm. So right now, out of the box, you can install on CentOS. We plan, it is deployable on other Linuxes, but it needs more work if you want. And we plan on having Debian packages and Ubuntu packages in the next few months. It's on the roadmap.
Okay.
So Windows, it could be possible. for Windows, because it's all Perl, so it's portable. But again, it's all about the integration with the various daemons that we rely on.
Right, right. So, I mean, I'm fine with it being Linux only, believe me, but I always like to ask the questions because some of the listeners, you know, I'm sure a lot of people run Windows, but it makes a lot of sense to have Linux only because that's what's running on a lot of Wi-Fi devices and back-end security, LDAP servers, things like that run a lot of
yes,
Linux
and
anyway.
Aaron, just by the way, even if you are a Windows shop, what we offer also, we offer the downloadable version for CentOS, but we also have what we call the Zen, the Zero Effort NAC, which is virtual. It's a virtual appliance, so it's a VMware appliance of Packet Fence that is installed and configured, and you can install that into a Windows environment. So you can basically boot a virtual machine that is, of course, it's running Linux, but even if your entire network is using Windows machine, Active Directory, and stuff like that, you could boot the VM and from there integrate that virtual machine into your Windows-based environment.
Right.
So there's no problem with that.
Right. Now, one more question is, I noticed, Ludovic, that you work for a company, I think, called Inverse, and I'm not sure if we've talked about that. What's the connection there between Inverse and Packet Fence?
Yeah, well, Inverse is a company that took leadership of the Packet Fence project back in 2008. Inverse, we started back in '98. In 2003, we created an open source division within Inverse, and from there we have pretty much been the leader in Quebec for open source software development and deployment. In 2003, when we started, we were very strong at doing email migration, installation, and stuff like that. And we started in 2005. We wanted to differentiate ourselves from other players by creating solutions. So that's how we jumped into Packet Fence project. We also jumped on the Sogo project, which is a nice groupware solution. I'm sure we will have the opportunity to talk about Sogo in another episode. But Inverse, what we do is we develop Packet Fence and Sogo. We give those solutions away for free. Both of solutions are entirely free, released under the GPL, and we do not have a commercial / proprietary version built on top of those versions. You have only one version, which is, the free version. And Inverse, what we do is we provide integration services, support services, or development services around those solutions. So this is how we make money, and it has been working pretty well.
Okay. Now, I've been sitting here chomping at the bit. I heard the word Perl earlier. So are you telling me this is in Perl? Is this all in Perl?
Yep, all in Perl except a little bit of PHP that I'm trying to phase out, which is the administration portal. But we're getting rid of PHP for more Perl.
Now, this was originally done, you said at Harvard, was it? So they started with Perl on this?
Yep, they did.
And do you know why they chose Perl? Was it just the best language of the time and the best language forever, that kind of thing?
You know what? I really don't know why they chose Perl in the beginning, but for us, I can tell you why Perl has been very productive. Because we are, as Ludovic said, our business model is focused a lot on support services and custom development, and because of the Perl nature that dynamic language don't have to compile and everything, we've been able, to SSH into customer environments remotely, perform hot fixes right in the code, and then bring back, the patches if they are upstreamable, if you allow me the expression.
Yes.
So Perl really allowed us to be very, very, focused and pragmatic, and bringing a lot of value quickly for developer time. Also, we leverage, I don't know how many CPAN modules. I think it's more than 100.
Wow.
Yum install, Packet Fence will show you. We really also benefit from the great NetSNMP Perl bindings. We use Mod Perl for the captive portal. So there are a lot of good stuff that because of Perl we leveraged. And in another life, I was a Java developer, and yes, there's a big static versus dynamic debate, but I mean, with enough tests, you can really, win the best of both worlds, I think, with Perl.
So you do have
So
tests.
I'm
That's
having a
always
blast.
useful, right?
Sorry?
You do have tests, I presume. Yes.
Yes, and I keep adding more and more. I'm really trying to sell, the testing stuff and why it's important. Yeah, for a dynamic language, it's necessary.
Absolutely, but it also serves a lot of the things that static languages don't test for, so that's the advantage of having tests in a dynamic language environment. What's the development process like? Is there is it only people within Inverse that are really contributing to this, or do you have a development community that's sharing a repository, or just accept patches, or what's the structure?
So we have everything is public. Our code repository is we use Monoton, which is a not well-known repository, but yeah. So it's public. We have a public bug tracker, public mailing lists. Unfortunately, we haven't had any external people from Inverse with commit access. It's not because of our business. I think it's because people are not. It's not a sexy project to hack on because it's too enterprisey. So we've been trying to attract developers. We had big patch sets contributed, but no reoccurring contribution that would make it worthwhile to give external access. But I'm really working hard to try to solve that problem and have external people host their branch in our public code repository. But most of the time, the development is really centralized in the bug tracker. We file a feature request there, issues, and we discuss them on the mailing list. So it's a really true open source project from the ground up.
Now, when people are taking this and bringing it into their own organization, I presume there's more than just configuration. I presume that a lot of people are also customizing this. Is that done via plugins, or are people just modifying the source code, or what's the mechanism for that?
It evolved gradually over time, but we have since the beginning a couple of extension points where you provide an object that will override the behavior, and it's kind of a sort of a plug-in mechanism. I took that approach and I'm pushing it into other directions, so we can override the captive portal, custom behavior, and etc. What most people modify, though, is still the look and feel of the captive portal. And for this, HTML templates using TT and CSS. So with CSS, you can do a lot of stuff. So this has been working well also.
Did I also hear that you're using Template Toolkit there?
Yep, exactly. We're using Template Toolkit for the HTML.
The one and only real template tool language for the Perl, although there's 72 other ones. I really like Template Toolkit. It seems to have the right mix of good and bad and evil all in one spot. Do you ever get any pushback from your clients, customers, users that, oh my God, I wish it was in Ruby instead?
Well, not me, but the thing is, most of our users are network guys, so they don't even dig that into the solution. They don't even, most of them know it's in Perl. They don't really care as long as it works. This is another point where we might have had a problem attracting developers, is because we always deal with network people and not developers. But the rare network guys that do program, they really dig Perl too.
Well, I've noticed that because, Perl being the darling language of the internet and still providing most of the internet backbone infrastructure stuff, this is actually a good match for that, because network administrators, network people are actually using this thing. But most people, you say, are actually just editing the Template Toolkit code and making nice different interfaces for the portals. Is that how most people configure this?
From what we can see on the mailing list and our customers, yes. What had a lot of traction lately is the various approaches to handling guests. This we work on quite a bit, but I'm kind of doing a feature branch for that, and we will merge it back in. But there are a lot of customization that went into guest handling, because there are a lot of different use cases. But aside from that, seriously, I don't think a lot of people modify it that much away from the captive portal. And We've got some external contribution, for example, access control in the administration panel. This was contributed as a big patch, and it worked well.
One other thing that where we receive let's say patches is Packet Fence is as you understand now it talks to switches. It talks to Cisco switches or wireless controllers. Packet Fence architecture allows us to offers the same functionalities over any or probably pretty much over any network vendors. So the structure, the framework behind Packet Fence allows network vendors or even, let's say, users of those network vendors' equipment to develop support for their equipment in Packet Fence. So we received in the past Packet Fence modules that add functionality in Packet Fence to secure that networking equipment. So let's say there is a new Cisco switch that Packet Fence does not support. There is a guy that got it on his enterprise network. He knows Perl. It's pretty easy for him to go through our developer guide and add support for this switch in Packet Fence and contribute to us the module.
Now, Ludovic, you must, as a businessman, at least for this company, have the nature of something like this is that the users of this aren't necessarily software developers, and just as Olivier was pointing at, that typically people will take this and not really have anything to contribute back to you. Did that ever concern you about having an open source company where you weren't really getting contributions back from your customers?
Randall, we do get a contribution in some ways, because when we deploy Packet Fence and we sometimes run into a client that wants to have a specific feature, or I don't know, they want to add, for example, a new guest portal registration mechanism. We offer the client, let's say, two solutions. One of them is he pays for it and he keeps it. And if he does, he's going to pay the full price. And if he wants, we can charge him a reduced rate, where we will develop that feature at a reduced rate, and we will put that contribution back into the open source project. So it's kind of a way to get contribution from for the clients, and it's a win-win scenario. It's a win for us because we get paid for doing the development. It's a win for the client because he gets his feature at a reduced price, and it's a win for the Packet Fence community project because they get a feature for free.
Now, what's the threshold at which somebody would have to pay then? If this is open source software, where do I have to start actually forking over bucks to put this in my company?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah. So what's the threshold at which somebody would have to pay then? Is it, if I want to put this in my company here, where would at what point do I have to pay? It's open source software, right?
Oh, Randall, you do not have to pay. Everybody out there can download the solution, install it, following our documentation, and be fine with it. Tons of people have done that all over the world. But sometimes people, they want to have the solution installed and ready in 2 weeks from now with the 2 portals to customize the registration process. They want to have their wireless equipment secured, their wired equipment secured. They want to have training and stuff like that. So it's a real project. It's an endeavor to deploy a NAC solution. It's not something that is simple to deploy as other solution. It really is an endeavor. So when people are looking at NAC solutions and they consider Packet Fence and they want to have the solution ready very, very quickly, that's when they will call Inverse.
Oh, so they'll select you as being, you send a team of people in to train the local administrators and network guys, and also to actually look at the hardware, make sure it's suitable, install the software, get it configured the way they want it to. All it's some sort of pricey deal. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we also have what we call support contracts, ticket base, where people will install the solution by themselves all around the world, but they want to have commercial support in case there is something wrong that happens at 2 a.m. on the Sunday night. So they will, at that time, pick up the phone, call Inverse, and they will have an engineer on the end of the line that will help them going through the issue they have. So we do offer 24/7 commercial support for Packet Fence.
And I can imagine for some clients, like my client right here I'm actually on their wireless network, and they have two wireless networks, one for public and one for private. But maybe with something like Packet Fence, they could have just one radio solution and have it so that people would log in with some sort of guest portal if their MAC address wasn't identified or something, right?
Yeah, you could have something like that for sure. For sure. And even if it's on your wireless network, you could transpose that on your wired network and have the same kind of portal for registration. So if your wireless network goes down and your guests still want to have network access, well, they could plug in on the wired network and have, let's say, the captive portal again, or be right in on the right networks.
Could they have wired up the wired network here then, so that if anybody plugs in and they're not a recognized MAC address or maybe some other authentication, that it would go to the cordoned off Bastion network for public access only?
Yes, absolutely. It's all about customization. So Packet Fence does the basic, okay? And once we sit down, or whenever someone wants to deploy the solution, they gotta ask themselves the same question you just did. What's gonna happen when someone plugs his computer or connects to our wireless network? What are we gonna show him? What are we gonna provide him? How are we gonna provide him network access code and stuff like that? Packet Fence has all the logic, all the functionalities. You just need to tie the various wires in the solution to customize it for your needs, and it just works. I mean, and it's starting to work very, very well. And Inverse has been contacted over the past few months many times to replace commercial/proprietary versions. So lots of people are asking us to move away from Cisco NAC or Forescout CounterHack, because those solutions might not work as well as I mean they were working first, and it's good for the project. It means that we have done a good job.
How well is the Perl code documented?
Also, talking about the competition, you know, most of them have a licensing model based on per IP or stuff like that, you know. So when you come with a completely free as in speech and free as in beer solution that costs, you know, $0 to run after the box has been deployed, it's a big competitive advantage for us. So sorry if I interrupted you. What was your question?
Oh, the question was, how well documented is the Perl code?
You know what? I think I'm doing a fairly good job. Maybe you should go and have a look at our mtn.inverse.ca, because I really try to document, you know, the obscure bits are documented, and otherwise it should all make sense. I think I do a okay job, I would say.
Very good, very good.
I'm using, by the way, PodDoc all over the place, and we generate the HTML files for the pod, and we put it up on our website. Every minimum firmware version for switches and stuff like that is all documented. So I put really a lot of effort into documentation. We're now lately we've been migrating our developer guide to a DocBook instead of OpenOffice, because I can maintain it in Monoton in our code repository, which I like more because I can do patches and diffs and stuff. So, you know, I'm really, I think, documentation oriented.
Very cool. And I see in the notes you sent me Moose. Are you using Moose? Are you migrating to it?
No. It was just to trick with you, but you know, just to show you, I'm following what's coming with Perl 6, and I know Moose is a path to you know, for this, and so I've been looking at it. No chance to use it yet because I haven't done any new things to the object model, but just to say that I'm definitely trying to follow Perl best practices, and Moose might come into Packet Fence at some point.
Well, we appreciate that, definitely. But people using modern Perl techniques are making Perl look less and less ugly, we hope, as time goes on. Although there's people out there, the naysayers, that'll say Perl looks evil no matter what it looks like. But hey, you know, they're just the haters. It's okay. Hey, so of course I have to, I'm running out of time here, so I want to ask you, of course, the big, most important question, Emacs or VI?
So for me, it's VI all the way.
Yeah.
For me, it's Emacs.
So, no.
At Inverse, first, we have
Yay!
two teams. We are a team of 15 people, and it's pretty much split across Sogo and Packet Fence. And the Sogo teams is Emacs oriented, and the Packet Fence teams is VI oriented.
But you know what? You know what, Randall? It can even get worse. We have some people here who works with Nano.
Oh, please, no. Just say no to that. All right, but anyway, so as I said, we're just running out of time here. So, Ludovic, anything last words you want to tell our audience?
Yeah, I guess as we discussed, we work with network vendor equipment. So we now support almost or more than 20 networking vendors out there, Cisco and Drasis, Aruba, and stuff like that. So if you are a networking vendor out there, have a look at the Packet Fence project and contact us in order for us to work with you and add support for your networking equipment. It will benefit everybody, including you and the Packet Fence project. So,
And same question, Olivier?
Yes, I would like to say that we're about to release 2.1 soon, which is probably going to be released this week or early next week. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at Packet Fence, so @Packet Fence. And we're also looking for Google Summer of Code students. We are doing the mentorship, applying for mentorship right now. So if you are interested in Perl and networking, prepare your GSOC form for us.
Oh, I have one last question. Sorry, I skipped over it in my notes. License and why? Either
License.
the license, you mean the
Packet
license
Fence.
being used by Packet Fence?
one? Yeah.
It's GPL, so
GPL.
it's a model that we have been truly believe in since 2003 for sure. But I've been a free software developer for almost 20 years now, and I believe in this model, and that's why we do not have a commercial/proprietary version built on top of our solution. We believe in this, and everything that we do is released either on the JPL or the LGPL license.
Very good, very good. Well, sorry to throw that last one question at you at the end there, but I just wanted to make sure that I got that in there, so everybody was curious about that. So I want to thank you guys.
Oh, I think we might have lost Randall.
Yep.
That's okay. Hey, thanks guys for coming on. I'll go ahead and close up. We really appreciate it. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing with the audience.
Thank you, Aaron. It was a pleasure for us to be on the show.
All right, great. I'm excited about this. Like I said, I use these kind of things all the time at hotels and airports and whatever. So, I mean, I think it's a really great system for making sure that you know who's using your network. So we really appreciate it and hope everyone goes to packetfence.org to check it out.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Well, I think I'm back. Hello. A little drop out there. Hopefully the audience didn't catch that. But interesting project. I appreciate the fact that we have people in here looking in this space, and he's right. There's a lot of commercial solutions out there that are really trying to capture this space, and it's really nice that you have this industrial grade, industrial strength open source solution, so you can download it and adapt it and adopt it and make it work the way you want to. And of course, extra bonus points for it being in Perl. That was really nice.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, pleasantly surprised that it was written in Perl. I wasn't expecting that, but I guess it makes sense, especially given all the security libraries and things that you can get out of CPAN and make use of. So, I think it does make sense from a security standpoint for them to use Perl.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I was trying to give you some positive energy there.
Oh, well, I like it for the fact, what I like they said is that they use a lot of CPAN modules. And that really, as I've said over and over again, the Perl's main strength isn't necessarily that it's the best, cleanest language to work in and to manipulate and modify, although it's very self-reflective and very scalable and stuff. But the big killer feature of Perl that still nobody comes close to is the CPAN.
Yeah.
I mean, even today, there are something like 40 or 50 modules a day being uploaded to the CPAN. And that is double what it was in 1999.
Right.
So it means there's more people doing more things with Perl today than there was during the heyday of the web. And most people don't get that about Perl. Sure, the whole market has gotten huge, and Perl's a smaller percentage of the market. But the percentage that it is now is still bigger than the total amount that was being done in Perl before.
Right.
And
Yep.
Perl is far from dead. So
Yep.
I go on that all day. You know
Yeah,
that.
no, I mean it's my first choice. I don't code as much as I used to, but it's my first choice. Maybe because that's what I'm used to. But Perl libraries, the CPAN libraries were always a big. It's like, okay, I want to do this. You know, you kind of lay out your project. I want to do this, and this, and then it's like, okay, how much of this can I do out of CPAN? You know, because it's a huge time saver.
It's like it gives you all the assembly blocks. You're not building everything from scratch. Now,
Exactly.
sure, Ruby's coming along, Python's coming along. You know, these other languages are sort of creating their own sort of shareable thing. But I still think even the CPAN is a little bit easier to use than the other systems are. Although Ruby's close. Ruby, they got it real close with all the gems and stuff and the way they got that all figured out. So good stuff, all good stuff. Glad I had these guys on the show this week. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But speaking of guys on the show every week, I'm going to look at my upcoming list here, as I often do at this point in the show. Looks like we've got next week. Oh, next week I'm not here because I am out on, my God, yet another cruise ship. So how many cruise weeks have I had, Aaron, in the last like 12 weeks? I think it's been like every other week just about.
Well, it's an unfair amount. I can tell you that right now because I haven't got to go on any cruises.
Well, we can solve that, you know, if you want to
right.
come on one of the stuff that I'm doing. It's insightcruises.com. We have great programs going on, not to give them too much of a plug, but they do pay a little bit of my paycheck from time to time. And we're with Sky and Telescope Magazine next week. We're going to Arecibo in Puerto Rico. We're going to actually go to the big radar dish that you might have seen in Contact and one of those Bond movies. And if it's anything like the last couple times we've been there, we actually get to drive down and do a private tour, and we get to actually reach up and touch the dish. That is so cool. That is just awesome to be able to like actually be at the dish and go, yeah, I've touched that big giant 26-acre dish. Okay, maybe it's just me. Anyway, so while I'm not here, we've got Dan Walsh coming in talking about SE Linux. He's going to have Dan Lynch is going to interview him, and I don't know who the co-host is. Maybe it's you, Aaron. I don't know.
Maybe.
Might be somebody. It could be. You never know. Has he asked you yet? We don't know yet. So Dan will sort that out by next week, I'm sure. I'll be back the following week. Michael Yap of Yogit, Jogit, something like that, is going to talk with me. Jogit is a rich browser experience, cross-platform experience that does a lot of really cool animations and interactions, a really deep experience right there in the browser. Darren Schreiber is going to talk to me with the 2600 Hertz project, which is all open source telephony things from top to bottom, things like Asterisk and FreeSwitch and everything else that works in there. Gilad Bracha joins me after that to talk about Newspeak. Newspeak is a language that's small talk-like, but takes it to the next level, being able to create very complex, rich systems that have limited scopes. You can run them in a sandbox and things like that. I haven't started my Q2 scheduling yet, but when I do, I'll have a lot more guests to announce. If you go to twit.tv/floss, you'll see a spreadsheet linked from there that has all the upcoming guests, including potential guests. If you have a potential guest, a potential project that you're really interested in, but you don't see them on the list there, mail me, merlin@stonehenge.com. Have the project leader mail me. Don't just send me a request that says, boy, you know, it'd be great if Project X was on this list, because I don't have time to do the research to figure out who to contact and get them motivated and stuff. But I tell you, it really works well to have the project leaders email me because they're excited about being on the show because you've already shared your enthusiasm with them. Really works the best. So if you want your favorite project on this show, you have the project leader email me. And yes, I have a backlog of about 40 email messages that I haven't incorporated into the list. So if you don't see it on there, it might just be that I haven't had time after all these cruises to come back and actually go through all my inbox mail. So be aware of that. Also, so I already said I'm on a cruise next week. I've got that on my notes to say as well. You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Merlin, MERLYN. If you were following me on Twitter, you would know that, for example, Friday night this week, if you're watching this live, I'll be doing karaoke at the Backstage Bar just in Culver City here where I'm staying. That'll be a lot of fun. Apparently, that is a huge place to do karaoke here in town, so I'm really looking forward to this. Dropped by there last night for their happy hour specials, and it looks like a really cool dive bar. If I can live stream from there, I will. Also, if you just happen to be around in the LA area, I'm spending most of my time here these days, so follow me on Twitter and you can find out where I am. And where can we find you, Aaron, when you're not at the Twit Cottage?
Yes, you can always go to thesourceshow.org. That's the URL. Go there for upcoming podcasts. I've got some podcasts coming out very soon, so keep an eye on that website, and you can always follow me on Twitter or Facebook at Aaron Newcomb, just all one word, Aaron Newcomb, or go to AaronNewcomb.com. So I've got it covered from all angles. So if you wanna follow me and see what I'm doing, go to any of those sources, and you'll get it there.
Very good. And Aaron, thanks once again for coming all the way into the Twit Cottage from your home abode there in the Silicon Valley somewhere.
Very early in the morning.
Yeah, I know. Good old iPad announcement pushed us an hour earlier than a normal taping, so Aaron's a little bleary-eyed. I am a little bleary-eyed, too. I'm trying to get all the rest of the caffeine in me here, but we'll see if we can make that all happen. But, hey, we did make it happen, so I guess there's nothing more to say than we'll see you again next time on Floss Weekly.